What's a telltale sign that two people are having a secret sexual relationship with each other? Story 1. I was at a barbecue with dozens of people. A young, lovely married couple was there. The wife was pregnant. They brought their short, squat, funny man roommate with them. At some point, the funny man and his pregnant wife were on opposite sides of the kitchen, and I caught a glance between them. No more than a blink of an eye. It was the only interaction they had all night. In that instant, I have never been more sure two people were effing. I told my girlfriend, "Those two are smashing." She told me to stop being a creep. Story 2. A married ex-friend of mine once started showing up with a woman and acting like that. I could tell they were banging, and I couldn't believe he wasn't trying harder to conceal it. Turns out the poor woman had no idea he was married and was unaware that everyone else did. It was later traumatizing to her to realize she had been seen as a mistress when she was the only person who didn't know what was happening. Story 3. At a place I worked at about 25 years ago, a female coworker dropped her screwdriver, and our boss picked it up and stuck it in her pocket. Later that day, my buddy says, "She did not flinch or look away from what she was doing when his hand went to her pocket. His hand has been in that pocket before." Story 4. While riding in the work truck, my coworker asked if I wanted to go to her house and watch movies. We were about to drive by it, and I said no, we were at work. She wanted to Netflix and chill before Netflix was a thing. Then I found out years later, one of her friends brought it up. I miss so many hits like that. It's crazy. Story 5. I worked IT, and for every one person we uncover doing something blatantly sleazy with coworkers on work email, there are 20, mostly older people, falling for relationship scams via work email and sending money to John/Jennifer from a Nigerian/Indian IP. 90% of the time they are mad, and we gently break the news to them with proof. For example, one lady had sent her boyfriend she had never met over $4,000 in Google Play Store gift cards over a couple of months because that was the only way he could exchange money in Canada for a plane ticket and pay for the vacation they were planning. Story 6. I figured out a coworker was sleeping with a married regular at an old job because of the glances. So one day she was there and he walked in. They made eye contact and quickly broke it off before greeting each other a moment later. Story 7. I've caught people because they didn't follow one another on social media to avoid suspicion. Still, they both posted that they were at the same place and had similar photos, and despite not posting about one another, it was apparent. Unfortunately, they didn't know what the other was posting because they needed to follow one another. LMFAO, which ultimately led to their discretion's downfall. Story 8. I started my first job ever, and by the end of the day, the coworker assigned to train me had added me on Facebook and was chatting. Within the week, we saw each other. Another coworker was in the same sports club as me and was consoling a drunken friend who had relationship problems. He kept telling her, "Don't worry, you can always talk to me if you have problems or need to vent." And then he says, "That applies to you too." He was a gent like that, and I said it as a joke, "I need to be seeing someone for that." And he said, "You're seeing coworker completely deadpan." I thought we were subtle. We had no reason to hide it either. We were just awkward. They all knew, and our boss deliberately paired us on shifts to help him out. A fun fact, the original coworker who was meant to train me was the club friend who was so hungover on the day he couldn't manage it. Story 9. I work in HR, and someone once dropped an anonymous tip that a senior management member was sleeping with a female subordinate. So IT gave me access to their emails, and I swear to God, the moment I read, "I can still smell you on my fingers," I immediately wanted to quit HR. Story 10. Interestingly, my now husband offered to carpool with me because we live close to each other, but I was fine using the company shuttle. I thought it was an inappropriate offer because I had a boyfriend then, so I disagreed with the arrangement. However, when my then boyfriend broke up with me for another girl, we reopened this conversation about carpooling, and things ended up in marriage. So, carpooling is a big deal. This also happened with my sister. She also married her carpool guy. Story 11. I had coworkers at a local mom and pop shop a few years back that would hold hands at work but let go as soon as someone else walked in the room. It was the unspoken secret of the store, and the owner told us in no uncertain terms that we were to never discuss it. They were very much married to other people from what I could see. Their respective spouses had no idea about it. Even at company parties, they didn't even make eye contact. At work, though, it was almost like it was their first crush. They were both amiable people, just apparently not to their spouses. I walked in on them sleeping together at the store one night after closing, and a couple of days later, I was summarily fired. Story 12. A friend at work started secretly dating a coworker. It was pronounced because of the shift from the usual way that they had always acted to almost strained professionalism when interacting with others. Plus, you'd catch things like the sidelong glances or weird excuses about why neither one could join everyone after work when they probably had plans together. When he finally told me, I replied, "Yeah, no shit," and laid out all the telltale clues that they had been showing. He was genuinely surprised, as he thought they had successfully kept it on the down low. Story 13. I was secretly seeing a guy in school, but as far as everyone else was concerned, we couldn't stand each other. This girl I barely knew pulled me aside and whispered, "I don't know what's going on between you two, but you need to stop staring or everyone else will know." Later on, he wanted to know what the girl said to me. I wasn't about to admit she was noticing my staring, so I said, "She thinks something is going on with us because you keep staring at me." Story 14. I worked on a TV show and there were rumors that one of the married cast members was hooking up with this other hot blonde cast member. I was surprised to find out that the stories were confirmed when I saw the stage/reunion show. When everyone walked on stage, they were the only 2 out of the 16 that didn't hug. Story 15. I told the manager I had a crush on one of my coworkers. A restaurant, so workplace dating/hookups were usually casual and not uncommon, and he and I were pretty good friends. He responded, "You and everybody else, it seems," which I assumed was because I'd heard other coworkers, mostly the line cooks, mention how attractive she was. He also said that they live in the same neighborhood and hang out frequently, and he could say a good word for me. I eagerly accepted, but I never felt any vibes from her, so I forgot about it. They found out later that they had been secretly dating for a couple of years and realized the subtle hints that he was trying to drop in the conversation and was so embarrassed. We never addressed it directly and we're still all friends, but he resigned when the rest of the management found out he was dating his direct subordinate and blew up over it. Story 16. I was hooking up with the receptionist at my job. People started noticing that anywhere I'd walk by her to say hi and see her, or to ask a dumb vague question, etc. I went to grab lunch and brought her back something. Game over. LOL. The secret was out. That receptionist is my wife, and I'd do it all over again the same way in a heartbeat. Story 17. At a company I used to work for, our COO and one of the sales managers were having an affair. Everyone knew, but they thought they were being sneaky. One day they came into work around the same time with Starbucks coffees in hand. They took the elevator separately, of course, but they didn't realize that when she picked up coffee for them, Starbucks put her name on both cups. Hence, he walked around with his coffee all morning with her name written on it. He came up the elevator with it, so even if he wanted to use the excuse that she brought it for him, he couldn't. Story 18. My old manager was so strict, and he didn't even let the staff talk. He made us save it for break time. Anyways, he went off for a few months unexpectedly, and while away, another staff and I started a fling. No one else knew. We'd mess about hitting each other and flirting just enough to make people wonder. Then we'd go back and get stock from the back and kiss quickly in the stockroom. It was hot as hell. The manager came back and watched us like a hawk, but Obbs couldn't say anything. He caught him winking at me one day, and that was the decider for him. My guy was made redundant soon after. Story 19. My wife, whom I met at work, and I had a secret relationship. A coworker found us out, even though we were pretty secretive about it. How'd she find out? I was talking to my future wife at work, and she said, "You got something hanging out of your nose," and proceeded to wipe my nose for me. It wasn't a wet booger or anything, just dry skin or something. My coworker saw it and said, "There are only 2 types of people who would clean someone else's nose: a mother to a child or someone sleeping with someone."